Everyone believed Jungkook was engaged to another woman, until a hidden romantic truth brought Jimin to tears of happiness. "Jungkook, tell me it isn't true." The words barely escaped Jimin's lips as flashes from hundreds of cameras exploded across the grand ballroom. The giant screen behind the stage displayed the same image over and over again. Jungkook, standing beside a breathtakingly beautiful woman. A diamond ring visible on her finger. The headline beneath, the photo seemed to scream louder than the crowd. Jian Jungkook's secret fiancé, RVLD. The room erupted into chaos. Reporters shouted questions. Guests whispered. Phones lit up like stars in the darkness. And Jimin stood frozen. For a moment, he couldn't hear anything except the violent pounding of his own heart. The crystal chandelier above blurred into scattered lights. His fingers trembled. His chest felt hollow. Across the room, Jungkook's eyes widened in horror. Jimin. But Jimin had already turned away. The sight of that ring felt like a knife twisting inside him. For 3 years, he had hidden everything. His feelings. His hopes. His dreams. Everything revolved around Jungkook. Not because Jungkook belonged to him, but because Jungkook had become the safest place in his life. The only person who understood the loneliness hiding behind his smiles. And now, everything seemed like a lie. Jimin walked out before anyone could stop him. Rain greeted him outside. Cold. Sharp. Merciless. The city lights reflected on the wet streets like shattered glass. He stepped into the storm without an umbrella. Without direction. Without caring where he went. Behind him, voices called his name. But he kept walking. The rain mixed with tears he refused to acknowledge. Because if he stopped moving, if he allowed himself to think, his heart would completely break. Hours later, the city slept beneath the storm. Jimin sat alone on the rooftop of an old building overlooking the Han River. The wind whipped through his soaked clothes. His fingers clutched a silver bracelet. A bracelet Jungkook had given him years ago. A bracelet nobody knew about. Not even the members. Especially not the members. Because the bracelet carried a promise. One that neither of them had ever spoken aloud. One that existed only in stolen glances and silent understanding. Jimin laughed bitterly. What an idiot. The words vanished into the night. Suddenly, the rooftop door burst open. Jungkook appeared. Breathing heavily. Hair drenched. Eyes frantic. Finally found you. Jimin looked away. I didn't know fiancés were allowed to chase other people in the middle of the night. The words came out colder than intended. Jungkook stopped. Pain flashed across his face. Don't. Don't what? Don't look at me like that. Jimin stood. For the first time that night, anger replaced sadness. Then how should I look at you? His voice cracked. How should I look at someone who kept something this important from me? Lightning illuminated the sky. For a brief second, both men stood surrounded by white light. Jungkook stepped closer. I wasn't hiding anything. Jimin laughed. You're engaged. I'm not. The entire country thinks you are. Because they don't know the truth. The answer only fueled Jimin's frustration. Then tell me the truth. Silence. A dangerous silence. Jungkook's fists clenched. His breathing became uneven. For a moment, Jimin thought he might finally explain everything. Instead, Jungkook looked away. And that hurt even more. Say, Jimin whispered. You can't. The disappointment in his voice struck harder than any scream. Jungkook closed his eyes. His greatest fear wasn't losing his reputation. It wasn't the media. It wasn't public judgment. It was this. Watching Jimin slowly give up on him. Because the truth he carried wasn't simple. It was terrifying. And once revealed, nothing would ever be the same again. 3 days earlier, the memory haunted him. A private meeting room. An elderly woman sitting across from him. Elegant. Powerful. The woman from the photograph. Everyone assumed she was his fiancée. But reality couldn't have been further from the truth. She was his grandmother. The last surviving member of one of Korea's wealthiest families. A woman who had spent decades searching for him. The meeting had changed everything. She had revealed a secret that overturned Jungkook's entire understanding of his own life. A hidden inheritance. A forgotten family branch. Billions of dollars. And one condition. If he wanted to claim the inheritance, he had to publicly appear beside her until legal matters were finalized. No explanations. No interviews. No disclosures. Absolute secrecy. The media had interpreted the situation differently. One leaked photograph. One visible ring. And suddenly, the nation believed he was engaged. The ring wasn't even hers. It belonged to a family archive she had been showing him. But rumors moved faster than truth. Now everything was falling apart. Back on the rooftop, Jungkook finally spoke. "The woman isn't my fiancée." Jimin stared. "Then who is she?" Jungkook hesitated. A lifetime seemed to pass. "She is family." The answer shocked Jimin. But confusion quickly followed. "Family?" Jungkook nodded. Rain continued to fall around them. "I only found out recently." His voice grew quieter. "There are things happening that I still don't understand myself." Jimin's anger began to fade. Not completely, but enough to reveal something deeper. Fear. Because Jungkook looked exhausted. Not guilty. Not deceptive. Just tired. Very tired. As though he had been carrying the weight of an entire world alone. "You could have told me." The words were softer now. Jungkook swallowed. "I wanted to." "Then why didn't you?" His answer came almost immediately. "Because I was afraid." Jimin blinked. Afraid. Jungkook. The fearless person who could perform before millions. The man who never backed down from challenges. Afraid of what? Jungkook smiled sadly. Losing the one person whose opinion matters most. The confession struck Jimin silent. The rooftop suddenly felt smaller. The storm quieter. The world farther away. For years, they had danced around emotions neither dared to name. Protecting the friendship. Protecting the bond. Protecting each other. Yet every protection had become another wall. Another distance. Another excuse. Jungkook stepped closer. Then closer. Until only inches separated them. His eyes never left Jimin's. "I don't care what headlines say." The wind howled around them. "I don't care what people assume." Jimin's heartbeat quickened. "I only care about one thing." "Jungkook. You." The word shattered every remaining defense. Jimin froze. Not because he didn't understand, but because he understood perfectly. Every glance. Every hidden smile. Every unspoken promise. Every moment they had avoided nomming. It all led here. Now. Tonight. Under a storm that seemed determined to witness everything. Jungkook slowly reached into his jacket pocket. Jimin's breath caught. A small velvet box emerged. His mind immediately jumped to the worst conclusion. Another ring. Another misunderstanding. Another heartbreak. But when the box opened, a different object rested inside. A silver ring. Simple. Beautiful. Engraved with a date. Jimin recognized it instantly. The date they first met. His knees nearly gave out. What is this? Jungkook's voice trembled. I bought it 2 years ago. Jimin stared. 2 years? Jungkook nodded. I wanted to give it to you sooner. The world disappeared. Only Jungkook remained. Only his voice. Only his eyes. Only the truth. Every time I tried, I got scared. A laugh escaped him. Embarrassed. Vulnerable. Human. I practiced speeches. Jimin's lips parted. I wrote letters. The rain hid tears forming in Jungkook's eyes. I even memorized romantic lines from movies. Jimin laughed through his own tears. The image was ridiculous. Adorable. Painfully sincere. And every time I saw you. Jungkook smiled. I forgot everything. Silence. Beautiful silence. Then Jimin began crying. Not quietly. Not elegantly. Real tears. The kind that come from relief after carrying too much pain. The kind that appear when happiness arrives so suddenly, it feels impossible. Jungkook immediately panicked. Oh no. Jimin laughed. Oh no. Why are you crying? You idiot. That's not an answer. Jimin shook his head. More tears fell. Because the entire world believed Jungkook belonged to someone else. Because he had spent days preparing himself for heartbreak. Because he had convinced himself that loving Jungkook would always remain a secret. And because the truth was infinitely more beautiful than anything he had imagined. Jungkook had never been preparing to marry another person. He had been gathering courage. For him. Only him. Jimin covered his face. His shoulders shook. Jungkook stepped forward and wrapped his arms around him. The embrace felt like coming home. Warm. Safe. Certain. For the first time in years, neither of them pulled away. Neither of them hid. Neither of them pretended. Above them, the storm finally began to fade. Clouds drifted apart. Moonlight emerged. Soft silver light washed across the rooftop. Jimin lifted his head. His eyes were still red. His cheeks wet. Yet he had never looked happier. Jungkook carefully slipped the ring onto his finger. A perfect fit. As though it had always belonged there. Jimin laughed again. Then cried again. Then laughed through the tears. And Jungkook realized something extraordinary. The greatest romantic surprise wasn't a public proposal. It wasn't a grand gesture. It wasn't wealth. Or fame. Or headlines. It was discovering that the person you loved had been waiting for you all along. As the city lights sparkled beneath the clearing sky, they stood together in silence. No cameras. No reporters. No rumors. Only truth. Only love. And the quiet certainty that sometimes happiness arrives disguised as heartbreak before revealing itself as the most beautiful miracle of all. The morning after the rooftop confession should have been peaceful. Instead, it became the beginning of a storm far greater than either Jungkook or Jimin expected. Sunlight spilled through the windows of Jungkook's apartment, painting golden patterns across the floor. The city looked calm from above. Cars moved like tiny toys. The Han River shimmered peacefully. Yet inside the apartment, tension lingered beneath every breath. Jimin stood near the kitchen counter, holding a cup of coffee. The silver ring rested on his finger. Every few seconds his eyes drifted toward it. A small smile appeared. Then disappeared. Then returned again. Jungkook noticed immediately. You've looked at it 37 times. Jimin nearly dropped the cup. What? Jungkook grinned. I counted. You counted. 38. Jimin rolled his eyes. You're impossible. Jungkook walked closer. You're happy. The direct observation caught Jimin off guard. His cheeks warmed. Maybe. Maybe. Jungkook laughed. Park Jimin, you cried for 20 minutes. I did not. You absolutely did. It was raining. It stopped raining. I was emotional. You were sobbing. Jimin grabbed a pillow and threw it directly at him. Jungkook caught it effortlessly. Their laughter filled the apartment. For the first time in years, neither of them had to hide behind friendship. Neither had to pretend. Neither had to wonder. Yet underneath the happiness, another reality waited. The outside world. And the outside world was already exploding. Jungkook's phone vibrated. Again. And again. And again. The screen lit up continuously. Hundreds of notifications. Thousands. Millions. Jimin's smile slowly faded. Still about the engagement rumor. Jungkook checked the screen. His expression darkened. Worse. What happened? Jungkook turned the phone around. Jimin's eyes widened. The newest headline dominated every news website. Mystery man's seen, Leaving, Junkook's apartment after midnight. Another article followed. Is Junkook hiding a secret relationship? Another. Engagement scandal takes shocking turn. Jimin felt his stomach drop. Someone had photographed him entering the apartment. Not clearly. Not enough to identify him. But enough to create speculation. Enough to start rumors. Enough to attract attention. How did they know? Jimin whispered. Jungkook's jaw tightened. They've been following me for days. The answer immediately transformed the atmosphere. No longer playful. No longer safe. Jimin knew how ruthless media attention could become. Both of them did. And if the truth emerged before they were ready, the consequences would be impossible to predict. The phone rang. Manager. Jungkook answered immediately. The conversation lasted less than 30 seconds. When he ended the call, his expression had changed completely. What is it? They want us at the company. Now. Jungkook nodded. Apparently something happened. An hour later. The conference room felt colder than usual. Executives sat around the table. Managers stood against the walls. Several legal advisors had joined through video call. Nobody smiled. Nobody greeted them. Jimin immediately sensed trouble. One executive pushed a tablet forward. Look. The screen displayed a video. Security footage. A private parking garage. Jimin's heartbeat stopped. It showed him. Clearly. Entering Jungkook's vehicle after midnight. The timestamp was visible. The quality was perfect. The room fell silent. Where did this come from? Jungkook demanded. No one knows. Another executive answered. But someone is trying to sell it. The words landed like a bomb. Jimin's pulse accelerated. Sell it. Someone possessed evidence. Someone wanted money. Someone knew more than they should. Another video appeared. Then another. Then another. Different dates. Different locations. Different years. Jungkook and Jimin together. Always together. Always close. The collection was enormous. Almost impossible. As though someone had been watching them for a very long time. A chill ran down Jimin's spine. Who would do this? Nobody had an answer. Then one of the lawyers spoke. The concern isn't who. Everyone looked at him. It's why. The room became even quieter. Because everyone understood the implication. Blackmail. Extortion. Manipulation. Something bigger than gossip. Something dangerous. Jungkook's fists clenched beneath the table. He had spent years protecting Jimin. Years making sure nobody crossed certain boundaries. years carefully controlling what the public saw. Now someone threatened everything. Not his career. Not his image. Jimin. That was what terrified him. Because if someone was willing to follow them this long, how far would they go next? The meeting ended without solutions. Only warnings. Only uncertainty. Only fear. As evening arrived, the city seemed darker than usual. Jimin sat alone, inside a recording studio. The empty room echoed with silence. A piano stood nearby. His fingers lightly touched the keys. One note. Then another. Then another. A melody slowly emerged. Sad. Beautiful. Honest. The music carried emotions words couldn't express. He thought about the last few years. The moments he almost confessed. The moments he almost gave up. The moments he convinced himself Jungkook could never feel the same. Then he remembered the rooftop. The ring. The tears. The confession. A small smile returned. Until the studio door opened. Suddenly. Unexpectedly. And someone stepped inside. Jimin froze. The woman from the photograph. Jungkook's supposed fiancée. The mysterious woman responsible for the rumor. She stood elegantly in a dark coat. Her presence immediately filled the room. Jimin slowly stood. The woman studied him quietly. Then smiled. You must be Jimin. His confusion deepened. You know who I am? Of course. The answer felt strangely personal. As if she had known him for years. Jimin's instincts immediately activated. What do you want? The woman approached slowly. Not threatening. Not hostile. Simply calm. Then she reached into her handbag. Jimin stiffened. Instead of a weapon, she removed a photograph. An old photograph. Very old. The edges were faded. The colors almost gone. She handed it to him. Jimin looked down and felt the world tilt beneath his feet. The picture showed a younger Jungkook, perhaps 12 years old, standing beside the woman. But that wasn't what shocked him. Someone else stood beside them. A young boy, smiling brightly. The boy looked exactly like Jimin. Not similar. Not resembling. Exactly. Jimin's blood turned cold. His fingers trembled. What is this? The woman's smile disappeared. For the first time, sadness entered her eyes. A truth that should have been revealed years ago. Jimin looked at her. Then the photograph. Then back again. Nothing made sense. What truth? The woman inhaled slowly. As if preparing herself. As if she understood the impact of what came next. Then she spoke. The reason your life became connected to Jungkook's wasn't an accident. The room suddenly felt suffocating. Every instinct screamed. Every nerve tightened. Every heartbeat thundered. What are you talking about? The woman looked directly into his eyes and quietly delivered words that shattered everything he believed about his own past. Jimin, your family and Jungkook's family were connected long before either of you were born. The photograph slipped from his hand, landing softly on the floor. But neither of them looked away. Because the truth unfolding before them was far more shocking than any engagement rumor. Far more dangerous than any scandal. And far more personal than either of them could imagine. Outside the studio, unknown to both of them, someone watched through a hidden camera feed. A shadowy figure sat in darkness. Dozens of photographs covered the wall. Hundreds. Jungkook. Jimin. Years of surveillance. Years of obsession. Years of secrets. The figure slowly smiled and whispered into the darkness. Now the real story begins. Photograph lay on the floor between them. Jimin could not breathe. The boy in the picture looked exactly like him. Not similar, not merely familiar. It was as if someone had taken a piece of his childhood and placed it inside a memory he had never lived. His hands trembled. The woman watched him carefully. I know this is difficult. Difficult, Jimin whispered. His voice cracked. Difficult would be finding out someone lied to me. He lifted the photograph. Difficult would be discovering a family secret. His eyes locked onto hers. This is insane. The woman's expression remained calm. Yet sadness lingered behind her gaze. I expected that reaction. Jimin laughed bitterly. You expected it? Yes. Then maybe you should explain what exactly I'm looking at. For several seconds, neither moved. The recording studio suddenly felt too small. Too quiet. Too heavy. The woman slowly sat down. For the first time, she appeared older. Not powerful. Not intimidating. Just tired. My name is Han Sujin. Jimin remained standing. I know who you are. No. Her voice softened. You know who the media thinks I am. Silence followed. Then she continued. For years, I searched for answers regarding Jungkook's biological family. Jimin's heartbeat quickened. Biological family. The phrase instantly captured his attention. Few people knew the complicated details of Jungkook's childhood. Even fewer knew how many questions still remained unanswered. Sujin folded her hands. The family records I inherited revealed something unexpected. What? A connection. Jimin swallowed. Between who? You. The answer struck like lightning. His chest tightened. What does that even mean? Sujin reached into her bag again. This time, she removed several documents. Old records. Photographs. Letters. Official seals. Decades-old paperwork. Jimin stared. The evidence looked authentic. Painfully authentic. You weren't supposed to discover this like this. Discover what? Sujin hesitated. Then finally said the words. Your father once saved Jungkook's father's life. The room went silent. Jimin blinked. What? It happened years before either of you were born. The revelation felt surreal. Jimin shook his head. My father never mentioned anything like that. He couldn't. Why? Because he disappeared shortly afterward. The words hit harder than anything before. Jimin froze. His father. The subject nobody discussed. The wound that never fully healed. The mystery that haunted every family gathering. His father had vanished when he was young. No explanation. No goodbye. Nothing. Just absence. And now this stranger was connecting that disappearance to Jungkook's family. It sounded impossible. Yet something in her eyes prevented him from dismissing it. You know something. Sujin looked down. I know more than I wish I did. At that exact moment, the studio door burst open. Both turned. Jungkook rushed inside, breathing heavily. His eyes immediately found Jimin. Then Sujin. The atmosphere shifted instantly. Tension. Fear. Urgency. Why are you here? Jungkook demanded. Sujin stood. Because he deserves answers. No. Jungkook's voice sharpened. Not like this. Jimin looked between them. Confusion exploded inside his mind. You knew. Jungkook froze. The silence was answer enough. Jimin's stomach dropped. You knew. Jimin. You knew. The betrayal hurt far more than he expected. Not because Jungkook had hidden information, but because after everything, after the rooftop, after the promises, after the truth between them, there were still secrets. Big ones. Dangerous ones. Jungkook ran a hand through his hair. His frustration was obvious. I found out 3 days ago. Jimin stared. 3 days. I was trying to protect you. The explanation only made things worse. Stop saying that. What? Protect me. Jimin's voice rose. I'm tired of everyone deciding what I should know. The anger surprised even him. Years of unanswered questions suddenly surfaced. Years of uncertainty. Years of pain. His eyes glistened. If my father is involved in this story, then I have a right to know. Jungkook looked devastated. Not angry. Not defensive. Devastated. Because he understood. And because deep down he knew Jimin was right. Sujin finally spoke. The truth is bigger than both of you realize. Nobody interrupted. The disappearance of Jimin's father was investigated. Jimin felt his pulse accelerate. Investigated by who? The police. The room felt colder. And they never found enough evidence. Evidence. The word echoed. Evidence of what? Jimin barely managed to ask. What happened? Sujin closed her eyes. Then opened them again. The official report called it a disappearance. A pause. But the private files suggested something darker. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Then she whispered the word. Murder. Jimin's legs nearly gave out. The world tilted. Murder. His father. Murder. The possibility slammed into him with terrifying force. For years, he had imagined countless scenarios. An accident. A secret life. A voluntary disappearance. Anything. Everything. But never murder. Never that. Jungkook stepped forward immediately, supporting him before he could fall. Jimin didn't pull away. His body felt numb. What are you saying? His voice sounded distant, as though someone else was speaking. Sujin looked genuinely regretful. I'm saying someone wanted him silenced. The room spun. Questions multiplied. Who? Why? How? Nothing made sense. Then suddenly Jungkook's phone rang. The sharp sound shattered the silence. Nobody moved. The screen displayed an unknown number. Jungkook frowned, then answered. Hello? No response. Only static. A few seconds passed. Then a distorted voice emerged. Cold. Mechanical. Terrifying. Stop digging. Every muscle in Jungkook's body tensed. The voice continued. Some truths should remain buried. Jimin's blood ran cold. Sujin immediately paled. The voice laughed softly. A horrifying sound. Almost cheerful. We've been watching for a long time. The line disconnected. Silence followed. Absolute silence. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. Then another sound broke through. A vibration. Jimin's phone. He looked down. One new message. Unknown sender. Attached image. His stomach twisted before he even opened it. Slowly. Carefully. He pressed the screen. The photograph appeared. And everything inside him shattered. The image showed his apartment. Taken from outside. Taken recently. Very recently. A red circle surrounded one window. His bedroom window. Beneath the image were 5 simple words. We can see everything. Jimin's hands began shaking uncontrollably. Jungkook immediately grabbed the phone. His face darkened. The protective warmth Jimin loved disappeared. Something colder emerged. Something dangerous. Rage. Pure rage. For the first time that night, fear vanished from Jungkook's eyes. Because whoever was behind this had crossed a line. Threatening him was one thing. Threatening Jimin was another. And Jungkook had never tolerated people hurting those he loved. Never. Sujin looked horrified. They found us. Jungkook's jaw tightened. Who? Her silence lasted too long. Far too long. Then she finally answered. The name left her lips like a curse. And both men instantly understood why she had been afraid. Why she had hidden the truth. Why someone had spent years watching them. Because the name belonged to a powerful organization connected to old money, corruption, and secrets stretching back decades. An organization believed to have disappeared years ago. An organization connected directly to Jungkook's family history. And possibly to the disappearance of Jimin's father. The Black Orchid Society. The words hung in the air. Heavy. Terrifying. Impossible. Outside, thunder rolled across the dark evening sky. And for the first time, Jimin realized this was no longer a scandal. No longer a rumor. No longer a story about a fake engagement. They had stepped into something far more dangerous. A mystery buried for decades. A mystery someone was willing to kill for. And somewhere in the darkness beyond the city lights, the people watching them were already preparing their next move. The storm arrived just after midnight. Rain hammered against the enormous glass windows of Jungkook's penthouse, while silence consumed the room. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. The name still echoed inside their minds. The Black Orchid Society. An organization that was supposed to be dead. Forgotten. Erased from history. Yet somehow it had returned. And somehow it was connected to both of them. Jimin sat on the couch, staring at the threatening message on his phone. We can see everything. The words felt alive. Watching. Breathing. Waiting. His fingers tightened around the device. Across the room, Jungkook paced like a caged animal. Every step carried growing frustration. Growing anger. Growing fear. Not fear for himself. Never for himself. Only for Jimin. Sujin stood near the window, her face pale beneath the city lights. For years, she had hoped these secrets would remain buried. For years, she had believed the danger had disappeared. Now she realized how wrong she had been. Finally, Jungkook stopped packing. Tell us everything. Sujin looked away. Jungkook. Everything. His voice was colder than either of them had ever heard. Even Jimin felt startled. Because this wasn't the gentle Jungkook he knew. This was someone else. Someone pushed to his limit. Someone preparing for war. Sujin slowly nodded. The Black Orchid Society wasn't officially a criminal organization. Jimin frowned. What does that mean? It means they hid behind wealth. Her voice grew quieter. Politicians, executives, influential families, investors. Lightning illuminated the room. For a brief second, shadows stretched across the walls. They controlled information. She swallowed. They controlled people. Jungkook's eyes narrowed. And my family. A painful silence followed. Then Sujin answered. Your grandfather helped create it. The room exploded into tension. Jungkook froze. Jimin felt his stomach drop. No. Jungkook shook his head. That's impossible. I wish it were. My grandfather was a businessman. He was much more than that. The words struck hard. Because Jungkook had spent his entire life trying to understand the family he barely knew. Now every answer seemed darker than the last. Sujin walked toward the table. She placed several old documents down. Some were newspaper clippings. Others appeared to be confidential records. One photograph immediately caught Jimin's attention. Several men stood together. Powerful men. Rich men. Dangerous-looking men. One face was circled in red. Jungkook's grandfather. Another face was circled beside him. Jimin's heart stopped. His father. The room suddenly felt too small. Too hot. Too suffocating. What is this? His voice trembled. Sujin looked devastated. Your father discovered something. What? He discovered corruption. Nobody spoke. The rain outside intensified. Each drop seemed louder than the last. He gathered evidence. Sujin continued. He planned to expose them. Jimin felt dizzy. His father. The man he barely remembered. The man whose smile survived only in faded photographs. The idea felt impossible. Yet somehow it explained everything. The disappearance. The silence. The fear. The unanswered questions. Jungkook stared at the picture. And they killed him. Sujin hesitated. Then nodded slowly. We never proved it. Jimin closed his eyes. Pain surged through him. Raw. Violent. Uncontrollable. For years, he had imagined his father returning. Walking through the front door. Smiling. Explaining everything. Now that fantasy shattered forever. His father wasn't lost. He wasn't missing. He was gone. The realization broke something inside him. A tear rolled down his cheek. Then another. Then another. Nobody spoke. Not even Jungkook. Because some pain couldn't be comforted immediately. Some wounds needed space to bleed. Several minutes passed before Jimin finally opened his eyes. They were different now. Still hurting. Still grieving. But something else had appeared. Determination. If they murdered him. His voice was quiet. Dangerously quiet. I want proof. Jungkook immediately looked at him. No. The answer came too quickly. Too forcefully. Jimin stared. What? No. Jungkook. No. His voice rose. They threatened you tonight. I'm aware. They've been watching you. I know. They could hurt you. Jimin stood. So what? The words shocked everyone. Even himself. But they were true. For years, he had lived with uncertainty. Years of unanswered questions. Years of grief without closure. Now the truth stood within reach. And he refused to walk away. Jungkook stepped closer. His eyes burned with emotion. I'm not losing you. The room went silent. Jimin froze. Sujin looked away. The intensity between them suddenly became impossible to ignore. Jungkook grabbed his shoulders. I just got you. His voice cracked. Do you understand that? Jimin's heartbeat accelerated. I spent years pretending. Jungkook continued. Years trying not to love you. Every word hit harder than the last. And now you're talking about chasing murderers. His breathing became uneven. No. The single word sounded almost desperate. Jimin stared into his eyes. For a moment, neither looked away. Neither blinked. Neither breathed. The entire world seemed to disappear, leaving only the two of them. Only fear. Only love. Only truth. Then Jimin whispered something that shattered Jungkook completely. What if it had been your father? Silence. Absolute silence. Jungkook's expression collapsed. Because he knew. He knew exactly what he would do. He would search forever. He would never stop. He would destroy himself if necessary. Because some people were worth any risk. Jimin gently touched his hand. I have to know. The anger disappeared from Jungkook's face. Only pain remained. And understanding. Because deep down he would have made the same choice. Before either could speak again, a loud crash echoed from outside. Everyone jumped. The sound came from the balcony. Glass shattered. Instinct immediately took over. Jungkook moved first, shielding Jimin behind him. Another crash followed. Then silence. Heavy silence. Dangerous silence. Jungkook slowly approached the balcony. Every muscle in his body tightened. The broken glass glistened across the floor. Rain blew inside through the shattered door. But nobody was there. No intruder. No attacker. Nothing. Only a small black box resting on the balcony floor. Soojin turned pale. Oh God. Jungkook picked it up carefully. What is it? Her voice barely emerged. A warning. The box contained no explosive. No weapon. Only a single object. A black orchid. Fresh. Beautiful. Terrifying. Beneath it sat an envelope. Jimin's name was written across the front. His blood ran cold. Slowly he opened it. Inside was a photograph. A new photograph. Taken only hours earlier. The image showed Jimin entering the recording studio that afternoon. Someone had followed him. Again. Another line was written beneath the picture. This is your last chance to stop. Jungkook's entire body went rigid. Something changed inside him. Something dark. Something dangerous. The protective instinct that had always existed suddenly transformed into fury. Pure fury. Enough fury to make even Soojin nervous. Because for the first time, she saw what happened when Jungkook truly lost patience. He folded the photograph, then crushed it in his fist. His voice emerged low and terrifying. They made a mistake. Nobody spoke. Nobody interrupted. The air itself seemed frozen. Jungkook looked toward the rain-covered skyline, toward the darkness hiding beyond the city, toward the people responsible. His eyes no longer contained fear, only resolve. They think threatening Jimin will stop us. Lightning flashed across the sky. His jaw tightened. They have no idea who they're dealing with. Far away, inside a hidden room filled with surveillance monitors, dozens of screens displayed live footage. Jimin. Jungkook. Every movement. Every conversation. Every location. A man dressed in black watched quietly. The leader of the operation. The architect behind years of surveillance. The keeper of decades-old secrets. One of his subordinates entered nervously. Sir. The man didn't look away from the monitors. What? We've identified another problem. The subordinate swallowed hard. The evidence file. For the first time, the leader turned. What about it? The younger man looked terrified. It wasn't destroyed. Silence. The leader's expression changed instantly. What did you say? The original file survived. The room became deadly quiet. Because everyone understood the implication. If the evidence survived, then the truth survived. The truth about Jimin's father. The truth about Jungkook's family. The truth powerful people had spent decades trying to bury. The leader slowly stood. His face darkened. Find it. The subordinate nodded immediately. And if Jungkook or Jimin reach it first? The leader's eyes became ice. Then he delivered an answer that sent chills through everyone in the room. Make sure they never get the chance. Outside, thunder roared across Seoul as fate quietly moved all its pieces toward a collision that would change everything forever. The next morning arrived without peace. The rain had stopped, but the city felt colder. Jimin stood alone on the balcony, staring at the skyline while dawn painted the horizon in shades of silver and pale gold. He hadn't slept. Neither had Jungkook. The black orchid remained on the table inside the apartment like a silent threat. A reminder. A warning. A promise. Someone was watching. Someone was waiting. Someone wanted them afraid. But something had changed inside Jimin during the night. The fear remained. Yet it no longer controlled him. For the first time in years, he had a direction. The truth. No matter how painful. No matter how dangerous. No matter what waited at the end. The balcony door slid open. Jungkook stepped outside carrying 2 cups of coffee. His dark eyes immediately searched Jimin's face. Checking. Making sure he was okay. A habit he had developed years ago. One he never realized he had. Jimin noticed it every time. And somehow it always made his heart ache. You didn't sleep. Jungkook handed him a cup. Neither did you. That's different. Jimin almost smiled. How? Because I was worrying about you. The answer came instantly. Naturally. As if it were the most obvious thing in the world. Jimin looked away. His chest tightened. After everything that had happened, Jungkook still managed to say things that affected him more than any dramatic confession. Silence settled between them. Comfortable. Heavy. Necessary. Then Jimin finally spoke. What if we find proof? Jungkook already knew what he meant. The evidence file. Jimin nodded. What if we actually find it? The question lingered in the air. Because neither of them had discussed what came after. Finding the truth was one thing. Living with it was another. Jungkook took a slow breath. Then we'll expose everything. The certainty in his voice surprised Jimin. No matter who gets hurt. Jungkook's expression darkened. If innocent people get hurt, that's tragic. A pause. But if powerful criminals get exposed, they deserve it. Jimin studied him carefully. The determination in Jungkook's eyes was impossible to ignore. For a moment, he remembered the younger Jungkook. The boy who laughed constantly. The boy who hated conflict. The boy who carried everyone's burdens while ignoring his own. That boy was gone. The man standing beside him now looked ready to challenge an entire empire. And perhaps he would. For Jimin, the realization warmed and frightened him simultaneously. Suddenly, the apartment door opened. Sujin entered the balcony. Her face looked pale. Serious. Urgent. Immediately, both men knew something was wrong. What happened? Jungkook asked. Sujin held up an old document. I found something. The atmosphere shifted instantly. What is it? She hesitated, then handed the paper to Jimin. His heartbeat accelerated. The document appeared decades old. Its edges were yellow. Its ink faded. Yet one name remained perfectly readable. Park Min-seok. His father. Jimin froze. Below the name sat an address. An address neither he nor Jungkook recognized. What is this? Sujin looked nervous. One of the final locations connected to your father before he disappeared. Silence. Jimin stared. His pulse thundered inside his ears. A location. A lead. A real lead. After all these years. Jungkook immediately understood the significance. When did you find this? An hour ago. And you didn't mention it immediately. I wanted to verify it first. Did you? Sujin nodded slowly. The property still exists. Nobody spoke. The implications were enormous. Because for the first time, they had something tangible. Not rumors. Not theories. Not stories. A place. A real place. Jimin looked at Jungkook. Jungkook looked back. Neither needed words. The decision had already been made. 3 hours later, the car moved through a remote area outside the city. The farther they traveled, the emptier the roads became. Tall trees surrounded them. Mist drifted through the forest. The atmosphere felt strange. Unsettling. As though nature itself wanted them to leave. Jimin sat in the passenger seat. Sujin occupied the back. Jungkook drove. Nobody spoke much. The tension was growing. Every kilometer brought them closer to answers. Or danger. Possibly both. Finally, the navigation system announced their arrival. The road ended. Ahead stood an abandoned estate. Jimin's breath caught. The property looked forgotten. Neglected. Dead. Broken windows. Collapsed fences. Overgrown vegetation. Years of decay covered everything. Yet something about it felt familiar. A sensation he couldn't explain. As if his subconscious recognized something his memory could not. Sujin stared through the window. This is it. The group exited the vehicle. The silence was eerie. No birds. No wind. Nothing. Only stillness. Jimin slowly approached the front entrance. His pulse accelerated. Every instinct screamed at him. Turn back. Leave. Run. Yet he continued forward. The old wooden door creaked open. Dust filled the air. The smell of age and abandonment surrounded them. Inside, shadows stretched across faded walls. Every footstep echoed. Jimin's chest tightened. Then he noticed something. Photographs. Old family photographs hanging crookedly on the wall. Most had deteriorated. Most were impossible to identify. Except one. Jimin stopped walking. His entire body froze. The photograph showed his father. Clearly. Undeniably. Standing inside this very house. The image appeared to be over 20 years old. Jungkook stared. Sujin stared. Nobody spoke. Because proof had finally appeared. Real proof. Jimin slowly reached toward the picture frame. His fingers shook. Then suddenly, a loud metallic sound echoed upstairs. Everyone froze. The noise was unmistakable. A footstep. Someone was inside the house. The atmosphere exploded with tension. Jungkook immediately stepped in front of Jimin. Protective. Alert. Dangerous. The sound came again. Closer this time. Slow. Deliberate. Someone knew they were here. Jimin's heartbeat slammed against his ribs. Sujin turned pale. The footsteps stopped. Silence returned. Then a voice echoed from the second floor. Calm. Cold. Male. I wondered how long it would take. Jimin felt ice spread through his veins. Jungkook's jaw tightened. The stranger continued. Your father was much smarter than you, Jimin. The words struck like a weapon. Jimin's eyes widened. You knew my father. A low laugh echoed through the darkness. Unfortunately. Another step. The stranger finally appeared at the top of the staircase. An older man. Elegant suit. Silver hair. Sharp eyes. The kind of face that inspired immediate distrust. Sujin gasped. Her reaction shocked everyone. The man smiled. Hello, Sujin. Her voice trembled. No. The man's smile widened. It has been a long time. Jungkook immediately noticed her fear. You know him. Sujin looked horrified. As though she had seen a ghost. As though a nightmare had suddenly stepped into reality. Then she whispered a name. A name that instantly changed everything. The chairman. The man nodded politely. Jimin felt his stomach drop. The chairman. The leader. The highest-ranking figure connected to the Black Orchid Society. The very person they feared most. The very person linked to decades of corruption. The very person who should have disappeared years ago. Yet here he stood. Alive. Waiting. Smiling. As though he had expected them all along. Jungkook stepped forward. Protectively, placing himself between the man and Jimin. The chairman's gaze shifted. then unexpectedly settled on Jungkook. For several seconds, he simply stared. A strange emotion flickered across his face. Recognition. Regret. Something else. Something deeply unsettling. Then he spoke words that instantly shattered the room. "You've grown up exactly like your father." Silence. Absolute silence. Jungkook froze. "What did you say?" The chairman's smile slowly vanished. For the first time, genuine emotion appeared in his eyes. "You still don't know, do you?" Jimin felt his pulse stop. Sujin looked horrified. Even the air seemed to freeze. The chairman took another step down the staircase. His gaze never left Jungkook. Then he quietly delivered a revelation capable of destroying everything they believed about the past. "Your father wasn't a victim of the Black Orchid Society." A pause. A terrible pause. The chairman's voice dropped lower. "Your father was one of its most powerful leaders." The world seemed to collapse around them. And the truth they had spent years searching for suddenly became far more complicated, far more dangerous, and far more heartbreaking than any of them could have imagined. The chairman's words crashed into the room like a bomb. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. The old house seemed to fall silent around them. Even the wind outside had disappeared. Jungkook stood frozen. His face drained of color. His eyes locked onto the older man. "What did you say?" The chairman descended another step. Slowly. Calmly. As if he were discussing the weather. "Your father was not the man you think he was." The sentence cut deeper than any insult. Jungkook's jaw tightened. "My father died when I was a child." "Yes. You don't get to speak about him." A flicker of sympathy crossed the chairman's face. Strangely genuine. And somehow that made everything worse. Children rarely know the truth about their parents. Jimin watched Jungkook carefully. For years, Jungkook had struggled with questions about his family. Questions nobody could answer. Questions buried beneath silence. Now those questions were returning with brutal force. The chairman finally reached the ground floor. Sujin instinctively stepped backward. Fear radiated from her entire body. The chairman noticed. "You still fear me. You destroyed lives." His smile vanished. "No." His voice became colder. "We all destroyed lives." Silence followed. Then Jimin stepped forward. "What happened to my father?" The room immediately changed. The chairman's attention shifted toward him. A long silence passed. For the first time, the old man's confidence seemed to weaken. "Your father was brave." Jimin's heart pounded. He discovered things he shouldn't have discovered. "I already know that." "No." The chairman shook his head. "You know pieces." His gaze darkened. "You don't know the entire truth." Jimin's patience snapped. "Then tell me." The words echoed through the house. Years of grief filled them. Years of pain. Years of unanswered questions. The chairman stared at him for several seconds. Then sighed. The Black Orchid Society wasn't originally evil. Nobody interrupted. It began as a private alliance. Lightning flashed beyond the broken windows. Wealthy families sharing information, investments, political influence. His eyes hardened. Then greed arrived. Jimin listened carefully. Every word mattered. Every detail mattered. Because somewhere inside this story lived the answer he had searched for his entire life. The chairman continued. "Power changes people." A bitter smile touched his lips. "It changed us." He turned toward one of the old bookshelves. Hidden among the dusty books stood a small locked cabinet. The chairman opened it. Inside rested dozens of files. Old documents. Photographs. Records. Evidence. Jungkook immediately tensed. The evidence file. It had been here all along. The chairman removed one folder. Then another. Then another. Finally, he selected a single file. The name on the cover made Jimin's blood freeze. Park Minuk. His father. The room fell silent. The chairman carefully handed it to him. Jimin's fingers trembled as he accepted it. The file felt heavier than paper should, as though it carried decades of secrets. Slowly, he opened it. Photographs. Reports. Witness statements. Handwritten notes. His breathing became uneven. Then he saw something. A photograph. His father standing beside Jungkook's father. Smiling. Laughing. Friends. Not enemies. Friends. Jimin stared. Confusion exploded inside him. What is this? The chairman looked tired. Your father and Jungkook's father worked together. Jungkook frowned. Worked together doing what? The answer came quietly. Trying to destroy us. Silence. Absolute silence. Jimin's eyes widened. Jungkook's expression darkened. The chairman nodded. They discovered corruption. Another photograph appeared. Then another. Then another. Every image told the same story. Secret meetings. Hidden conversations. Investigations. Evidence collection. Two men risking everything. Together, they planned to expose the society. The chairman's voice cracked slightly. And someone betrayed them. The atmosphere instantly changed. Jimin felt his pulse accelerate. Betrayal. That word changed everything. Because it meant someone inside their group had sold them out. Someone responsible for everything that followed. Who? Jimin demanded. The chairman looked away. The silence stretched. Too long. Far too long. Then a new voice answered. Me. Everyone turned. Sujin stood motionless. Her face pale. Tears gathering in her eyes. The room exploded into shock. Jimin stared. Jungkook stared. Even the chairman looked surprised. Sujin's hands trembled violently. I betrayed them. The confession hit like a train. No. Jimin shook his head. No. Tears rolled down her cheeks. I didn't mean for anyone to die. Her voice broke. I swear I didn't. The chairman slowly closed his eyes, as though reliving old pain. Sujin collapsed into a nearby chair, crying openly now. I was young. Nobody spoke. The guilt pouring from her felt real. Painfully real. They threatened my family. Her breathing became uneven. They told me they would kill everyone I loved. Jimin felt sick. The room spun around him. They wanted information. Sujin continued. And I gave it to them. Jungkook's voice emerged quietly. What happened after that? The answer shattered the room. They found your father's. Silence. A terrible silence. Sujin covered her face. They intercepted the evidence. Her shoulders shook. They ambushed them. Jimin felt tears forming. Against his will. Against everything. Because he already knew what came next. Deep down, he had known from the beginning. They killed my father. Sujin nodded. The motion barely visible. Yet devastating. They tried to kill Jungkook's father too. Jungkook froze. What? The chairman stepped forward. His expression suddenly serious. That's the truth nobody knows. Jungkook's pulse accelerated. What happened? The chairman inhaled slowly. Then finally revealed the secret. Your father survived. The entire world stopped. Jungkook stared, unable to process the words. Survived. His father survived. Impossible. His father had died years ago. Everyone knew that. Everyone believed that. The chairman looked directly into his eyes. He survived the attack. Jungkook's breathing became shallow. You're lying. I'm not. My father is dead. No. The chairman shook his head. He disappeared. Jungkook stepped backward. His legs suddenly felt weak. What are you talking about? The chairman's voice softened. Your father chose to vanish. The room erupted into chaos. Questions. Shock. Disbelief. Nothing made sense anymore. Jungkook's mind raced. Every memory. Every story. Every funeral. Every explanation. All of it suddenly felt uncertain. My father died. The words sounded desperate now, as though repeating them could make them true. The chairman slowly approached, then handed him another photograph. A recent photograph. Not 20 years old. Not 10 years old. Recent. Very recent. Jungkook looked down, and the ground disappeared beneath him. The photograph showed a man standing beside a lake. Older. Gray-haired. Weathered by time. Yet unmistakable. Jungkook's father. Alive. 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 The photograph slipped from his trembling fingers. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. Tears immediately filled Jungkook's eyes. For years he had mourned. For years he had carried grief. For years he had believed he would never see his father again. And now, everything had changed. Everything. Jimin rushed toward him instantly, supporting him before he could collapse. Jungkook's breathing became ragged. His entire body shook. Not from fear. Not from anger. From hope. Terrifying hope. Because hope could hurt worse than grief. Hope could destroy people. Hope could break hearts. What if it's fake? His voice barely emerged. What if this is another lie? Jimin held his hand tightly. The ring glimmered on his finger. The same ring Jungkook had given him. The same promise. The same love. And in that moment, Jungkook realized something. No matter what happened next, no matter what truth awaited, he wouldn't face it alone. Then suddenly, a gunshot exploded through the house. Glass shattered. Everyone dropped instinctively. Another shot followed. Then another. The peaceful moment vanished instantly. Screams echoed. Wood splintered. Chaos erupted. Someone had found them. The Black Orchid Society. Outside, dark vehicles surrounded the estate. Armed men emerged from the shadows. Dozens of them. The hunt had begun. And as bullets tore through the old house, Jungkook clutched the photograph of his supposedly dead father while realizing that the answers he had searched for his entire life were finally within reach, if they survived long enough to find them. The gunfire continued for several terrifying seconds before suddenly stopping. An unnatural silence followed. Dust drifted through the damaged house. Broken glass covered the floor. The smell of smoke lingered in the air. Jimin's heart pounded violently as Jungkook pulled him behind an overturned table. Outside, footsteps approached. Slow. Careful. Dangerous. The armed men were moving closer. The chairman looked toward a hidden door near the back of the room. His expression changed. For the first time since they met him, he looked genuinely afraid. We don't have much time. Another loud crash echoed through the house. The attackers were forcing their way inside. Sujin wiped tears from her face. What do we do? The chairman looked at Jungkook, then at Jimin. Finally, he made a decision. The truth ends tonight. Without another word, he opened the hidden door. A narrow staircase descended beneath the house. The group hurried down, just as more gunshots erupted upstairs. The underground passage stretched beneath the estate. Cold stone walls surrounded them. Old lamps illuminated the darkness. The deeper they traveled, the older everything appeared. Eventually, they reached a large underground chamber. Jimin stopped breathing. Shelves lined the walls. Thousands of documents. Photographs. Ledgers. Recordings. Evidence. Decades of evidence. Enough to expose every crime connected to the Black Orchid Society. Enough to destroy powerful people. Enough to reveal the truth about his father. The chairman slowly approached a metal cabinet. His hands trembled slightly. When he opened it, dozens of sealed files appeared. He removed two. One labeled Park Minsok. The other labeled Jian Donghwan. Jungkook stared at his father's name. The chairman handed them over. Everything is inside. Jimin opened the file first. As he read through the documents, tears filled his eyes. Witness statements. Investigative notes. Personal letters. His father had spent years gathering evidence against corrupt leaders. He had known the risks. He had known people wanted him dead. Yet he continued anyway. Not for money. Not for power. For justice. At the bottom of the file rested a handwritten letter. Addressed to Jimin. His hands shook as he unfolded it. The handwriting was unmistakable. His father's. Jimin read silently. His father wrote about love. About courage. About never allowing fear to define a life. Most importantly, he wrote about how proud he was of his son. Even though he knew he might never see him grow up. By the time Jimin reached the final line, tears blurred his vision completely. For years he had searched for answers. Now he finally had them. His father had not abandoned him. His father had loved him until the very end. Nearby, Jungkook opened his own file. His breathing immediately stopped. A recent address sat inside. A location. Current. Verified. Alongside it was a photograph taken only months ago. His father truly was alive. The revelation overwhelmed him. Years of grief collapsed in an instant. Years of pain. Years of loneliness. All replaced by one impossible possibility. Seeing his father again. Suddenly, a loud explosion shook the underground chamber. The attackers had found them. Dust rained from the ceiling. The chairman looked toward the entrance. They're here. Jungkook stood immediately. We have to leave. The chairman slowly shook his head. No. Everyone looked at him. The old man smiled sadly. For the first time, he seemed at peace. I started this organization. His eyes filled with regret. I spent decades trying to convince myself that power mattered. He looked toward the evidence surrounding them. It never did. Another explosion echoed. Closer now. The attackers were approaching. The chairman turned toward Jimin. Your father was a better man than I ever was. Then he looked at Jungkook. And your father paid for my mistakes. The old man took a small device from his pocket. A detonator. Sujin's eyes widened. No. The chairman smiled gently. This evidence must survive. Realization hit everyone simultaneously. He intended to stay behind. To buy them time. Tears filled Sujin's eyes. You don't have to do this. Yes. His voice remained calm. I do. The footsteps above grew louder. The enemy was almost there. The chairman moved toward the chamber entrance. Before leaving, he paused. Then looked back one final time. Make sure the truth reaches the world. Jimin swallowed hard. We will. The chairman nodded. Satisfied. Then disappeared into the darkness. Moments later, the group escaped through another tunnel leading into the forest beyond the estate. They ran. And behind them, a massive explosion shattered the night. The ground trembled. Fire illuminated the sky. The underground archive remained protected beneath reinforced vaults, while the attackers were stopped once and for all. The Black Orchid Society ended that night. Not with silence, but with truth. Over the following weeks, the evidence was released publicly. Corrupt officials resigned. Executives were arrested. Decades of hidden crimes finally came to light. The world watched in shock. Justice, delayed for years, finally arrived. Soojin publicly confessed her role in the betrayal and helped investigators uncover the remaining secrets. For the first time in decades, she no longer carried her guilt alone. And then came the day Jungkook had dreamed about for most of his life. The address, the photograph, the final mystery. Together, he and Jimin traveled to a quiet lakeside town far from the city. The air smelled of pine trees and fresh water. The lake reflected the afternoon sunlight like liquid gold. A small wooden house stood near the shoreline. Jungkook's hands trembled as they approached. His heart pounded so hard it hurt. Then the front door opened. An older man stepped outside. Gray hair, gentle eyes, a familiar smile. For several seconds, nobody moved. The world seemed to stop. Father and son simply stared at one another. Years disappeared. Pain disappeared. Distance disappeared. The older man's eyes filled with tears. Jungkook. The sound of his name shattered every remaining wall. Jungkook ran forward. The embrace that followed carried decades of grief, love, regret, and forgiveness. Neither wanted to let go. Neither could. Nearby, Jimin watched quietly. Tears streamed down his own face. Not from sadness. From happiness. Because after everything they had endured, some miracles still existed. Months later, life looked very different. The scandals were gone. The threats had ended. The secrets were no longer hidden. One evening, Jimin and Jungkook returned to the same rooftop where everything had changed. The city sparkled beneath the stars. A gentle breeze moved through the night. For a while, neither spoke. They simply stood together. Peacefully. Comfortably. Finally, Jungkook looked at him. "Do you remember the engagement rumor?" Jimin laughed. "The rumor that nearly gave me a heart attack." "That one." Jimin shook his head. "I hated you that day." Jungkook grinned. "You cried. You keep bringing that up." "Because it was cute." Jimin rolled his eyes. Then smiled. The same smile Jungkook had fallen in love with years ago. A smile that had carried him through darkness. A smile that had become home. Jungkook gently took his hand. The silver ring still rested there. Exactly where it belonged. "There's one thing I never said properly." Jimin looked at him. "What?" Jungkook's eyes softened. "Thank you." Jimin blinked. "For what?" "For staying." The answer was simple. Honest. Perfect. Jimin squeezed his hand. Always. Above them, the stars shone brightly. Below them, the city continued its endless dance of lights and dreams. And for the first time in a very long time, there were no secrets left between them. Only truth. Only healing. Only love. Together they stood beneath the night sky, no longer haunted by the past, no longer searching for answers, knowing that whatever future awaited them, they would face it side by side. And that, more than any mystery or miracle, was the happiest ending either of them could have imagined.